everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Lenovo and VMware Edge Solution session with the ThinkSystem SE350. I'm Greg Pruitt, and I'm joined today by my good friend in VMware, Josh David, who is part of the Ecosystem Solutions team. I'm also joined by Anand Gorti, who is a solutions architect in our Edge and Telco team. Josh, would you like to start by introducing some of the requirements that you see for edge computing and how VMware is addressing this?
Hey, thank you, Greg, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and co-present with you about the Lenovo and VMware Edge solution on ThinkSystem SE350. As we hear about from edge computing, there's use cases become so prevalent. Before I dive in, I just want to quickly share about the definition. What is the edge? According to IDC, it's a distributed computing paradigm that includes the deployment of infrastructure and applications outside of centralized data center and public clouds, closer to where data is generated and consumed. So when we look at edge processing and how enterprises are consuming this, it has become a strategic imperative. Edge computing has become a top priority for C-suite execs, and it is critical to the success of strategic business objectives. What VMware and Lenovo have jointly been able to develop a scalable edge solution, a compute platform that really helps enterprises meet their core objectives for these various use cases. The solution requires only 2 small SE350 servers. It does not require any additional network switches or storage or Wi-Fi router. The solution can be connected via wired Ethernet or LTE cellular data. The solution also provides the ESXi and vSAN infrastructure in low cost on the small form factor for remote edge locations for these various verticals, including retail, industrial manufacturing, smart cities, oil and gas, and other verticals. It also has a centrally managed control plane, either that can be managed from the cloud or from the central office on-prem data center. And with that, in order to have more details about the solution, I'm going to turn it back to Greg. Greg, back to you.
I want to talk a little bit more and think a little bit more about some of the physical requirements, what it takes to actually install compute hardware at these locations. If you think about something like a small retail store, maybe a gas station, we need to think about all of the requirements of how this hardware can be mounted. Maybe there's a data center rack in the store, or maybe the equipment needs to be small enough to just fit into a cabinet. There may be requirements for extended temperature. The servers may have to be powered off of wall power. There might even be additional shock and vibration for the equipment if it's near the loading dock. We also need to think about how to connect the equipment. In some cases, we might be able to have wired Ethernet, but in other cases need to connect the equipment via a wireless type connection. Physical security is also very important, as well as making sure that everything can be managed remotely for the operational simplification. So the SE350 was really designed for this type of edge environment. It is a true server class device. It has a Intel Xeon D processor with full capability of Xeon cores. It can go up to 256 gig of memory, so it's a very capable machine for a VMware environment. It's also certified for NEBS 3 for extended shock and vibration, extended temperature support, and it can support a full server class GPU, such as the NVIDIA T4. So let's set up the demo. Anand, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Now I'm going to demonstrate how easy it is to set these 2-node cluster solutions at the remote edge sites. Just unpack these compact, lightweight edge servers, from the box, set them up, use the provided cables to connect them back to back, connect them to your wide area network, and then if you have wireless units, connect the antennas, and then power up the cluster, and it is now ready to go. Now I'm going to show you how to configure and manage the solution remotely using the VMware tools.
Log into the VMware SD-WAN Network Orchestrator, and on the dashboard you will see the status of all the edge devices. They are connected, their HA status, and from here you can then configure and create a new virtual edge instance. Provision the instance with a name. Select the model, which is the virtual edge. Select a profile, select the license, and then high availability, and then you can do a create. Once you create, record the activation key, and that activation key would be needed when you deploy the virtual edge VM. And when you deploy the virtual edge VM, it connects to the orchestrator, and you can see again the status of the virtual edge. For example, the Telco Nano H2, it is status is connected, and then HA is working. From here, you can then select that edge and configure the various parameters on that edge. For example, you can define under the device, you can define the IP range for the VMs, the management networks, as well as the DHCP and the VLANs. For example, you can go in here and then define the the DHCP ranges, and then the static IPs, for example, the ESXi for the two nodes, the ESXi IPs. This will be useful for you later when you are managing this through the vCenter. Once you have defined the IP range, the DHCP and the VLANs, you can also go into the device and then enable the GE1, GE2, the ports that are required for the virtual edge instance for the NIC ports. At this point, the virtual edge cluster, the two-node cluster, is ready for being managed from vCenter. And once you log into vCenter, you can create a new cluster. Go to add new cluster, create a cluster with the right configuration parameters, a vSAN cluster here, manage all hosts in the cluster with a single image, compose a new image, and then click. Here you can specify the vendor add-on, which is the Lenovo customization add-on. So this is review your cluster parameters and then finish configuring the cluster.
Now that you have seen how easy it is to deploy this VMware solution, now I'll hand it over to Greg.
Thank you, Anand. That was an awesome demo. It's really interesting to see how you're able to manage this widely distributed edge environment using the standard vCenter tools. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Really hope you enjoyed the session, and looking forward to your feedback.